Congressman Javier Becerra and U.S. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Welcome back to both of you. Look, it's big night for everybody. This town is buzzing. And I want to start with you. We know that the president is excited about the minimum wage increase. It polls really well. He's taken action already. Are you willing to support yourself, the president, tonight when he calls for the minimum wage for hardworking Americans going up to $10.10?
I think what we should, obviously what he's decided to do is take a pen and make that decision by himself on federal contracts, which I think is bad, because you cannot create an artificial floor for wages without the prices of whatever it's creating going up, and technology then taking the place of some of those lower wages. Let me share this with you. When I worked at the movie theater, I used to sell the tickets. Yes. Because of technology and because of a higher minimum wage, technology now takes the place of that job. So when you walk into the theater, instead of having someone working there, you buy your own ticket through a computer. What we should have a serious conversation about is how we can help people reestablish their position and pathway to prosperity.
Are you saying you don't think that Americans who are working hard every day deserve a raise? Are you against giving Americans a raise because of your experience with the ticket machine?
I know you're a highfalutin fellow and everything, but let me just explain this to you, okay? Let me just explain this to you. See, the way that we help people get raises is by making sure that they have better skills. One of the reasons why I have a skills act that I'm working on, that the House has already passed.
Which I'm for.
One of the things that we can do is we can help people get the skills necessary so that they get the type of job that pays them more.
You're way too smart for me. I'm so simple. Are you going to support the $10.10 minimum wage for America, or yes or no?
Simple answer. I'm going to make sure that every American has better skills so that they don't have to worry about the minimum wage, that they get to set a wage for themselves based on their access to opportunity.
Let me get the congressman in here. Congressman, even if I agreed with the economics of raising the minimum wage, which I don't, it seems to me like a political gimmick that doesn't really address the gaping, glaring holes in our economic recovery. Tax reform, entitlement reform, Obamacare. These things are costing us, in the future, billions. Why is the president's big idea for economic recovery raising the minimum wage?
If you're making about $15,000 a year and you got a family, that's a big idea. If you're trying to make sure that you don't have to leave an 8-hour job and then go to the food pantry so you can feed your family, that's a big idea. Essie, there are a lot of Americans who are working every day very hard, not 16 and 18-year-olds selling tickets at a movie theater, who are actually trying to live off of the minimum wage. And it's time we gave people respect. We rewarded work and said, if you're going to work 8 hours a day, you're going to work a full day's work.
Well, I'm glad
you should be able to live on that.
But I'm glad you brought up young people, because there's 16.3% unemployment rate among youth. You are making it harder for people to hire more of those young people by raising the minimum wage.
That's the argument the conservatives always make.
Oh, no, that's economics.
And by the way, every year we continue to see more and more people working, and 8 million more Americans working in the last 4 years. And there are a lot of those folks who are making very small salaries. And so what we're just saying is, let's reward work again. Let's do what we did when my father was working. My father got about a 6th grade education, was a construction worker most of his life. He put 4 kids through college.
Yeah, but I bet his boss made that decision. I bet, shouldn't employers make the decision to reward their employees?
His boss working with his employees made that decision, and he made a pretty decent salary. Let me bring this in. Let me bring work.
So hold on a second. Here's what I don't understand. It seems to me that you guys don't think the minimum wage is a good idea. Would you call for repealing the minimum wage?
Here's what we know.
America's listening. Are you against? Would you call for repealing it?
Here's what I will tell you. Mr. Becerra has done fantastic because he has a Stanford education and a Stanford law degree. When we put people on the path to getting a better education, we know that they get a better wage. When we give them the skills necessary, when they earn the skills necessary through something like the Skills Act, we know that they earn far more than the minimum wage. But the conversation that we're having this year on the minimum wage is an election year conversation for one reason. Because 3% of Americans earn the minimum wage. Half of those folks actually get a tip, so they actually earn more than that.
So they don't need a wage.
No.
These people working hard, they don't need a raise.
Here's the point.
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that?
Let me finish my comment.
Senator, $7.25 an hour.
Let me finish my comment. Do you mind? I won't interrupt you next time. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
So, if we seriously want to have a conversation about increasing people's take-home pay, Why don't we go to Obamacare, where we see the 40-hour work week decimated? Why not restore that 25% of people's pay in pursuit of a better life, a higher quality of life?
I can't believe
we can deal with that.
You raised Obamacare.
Let's deal with
forces and do it together.
Let's work on that health security law, which today has helped 12 million Americans get health security. But let's not deny to people who work every day hard for 8 hours, 10 hours a day, a chance to say, I can live, instead of having to go to a food pantry to go feed the kids after putting in a full day's work. We don't reward work anymore. We used to reward work. It's time we respected people who are willing to put in a hard day work.
I rode the buses a couple weeks ago around my city just to have a serious conversation with people who are struggling to make their ends meet. What they did not ask for was a handout.
That's not
what
a handout.
they wanted was a handout. And let me explain how that works from their perspective. They said, if I just had access to more skills, if I had a better education, if you could help me find those opportunities.
Tim, my dad got a sixth-grade education, but I could do it.
My grandfather had a third-grade education.
So
we can
my
debate
dad
that.
was a skilled construction worker.
We can rival educations and who had less.
But I want to
let me move the conversation forward, because I want to talk about what the president's definitely going to do in the State of the Union tonight. As I mentioned, Congressman, Farm Bill, immigration reform, budget. We've seen progress in all of these issues despite the president. Don't you feel a little dismissed when the president says, essentially, I'm going to go around you guys? I mean, doesn't it seem like he's working around you instead of trying to work with you?
You left out about probably 90% of his discourse, which was, I want to work with Congress. But what he said, which you've blown out of proportion, is, but if Congress is not going to be able to walk and chew gum, then I got to act.
But Congress just proved that it can come together. Congress has come together
So I think
recently.
the president is willing, as on immigration. He's been waiting for the House of Representatives to match the Senate. He hasn't interfered because Republicans have said, let us do the work in the House. So he's let the Republicans try to work. And so the president is prepared to work with Congress. But every time Congress falls on its face, or as Speaker Boehner said, is going to become a brick wall to the president's ideas, the president's saying, I can't wait for Republicans to decide they want to move. I'm going to take action.
Let's take a look at the definition of a brick wall. It's called the Senate and Harry Reid's leadership. 200 bills passed the House, and they can't find the light of day in the Senate. Seriously?
Fair enough. Look, I want to give many thanks to Congressman Becerra and to Senator Tim Scott. Good to have both of you back here. We